Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone out there today. My name is Nenshad Bardoliwalla. I am the Chief Product Officer of DataRobot, and I am joined today by my colleague, friend, and spiritual advisor in the data science world, Michael Schmidt, our CTO. I am absolutely thrilled to be able to talk about two huge announcements that we have today. And Michael and I will both be sharing some of our thoughts and insights around number one, DataRobot Core, our new offering that targets code first data scientists. We have a number of new capabilities that I think will be absolutely exciting for everyone who wants to be able to take advantage of code and automation. And we're also really excited to talk about the launch of DataRobot 7.3 release. This is the culmination of a lot of effort, 4 releases a year. This is the one that comes during the holiday season, so it's going to be a gift to many of you. And before we go any further, I'm happy to introduce Michael and let him say a few words. Michael, over to you.
Thanks, Nenshad. Also super excited, especially for the two announcements today. So my background is in data science, some engineering as well. I get to focus on some of our data science, our technology, our vision, kind of what we end up developing longer term. And as like a data scientist, this is a pretty special release for the product. And then the launch of sort of DataRobot Core is also directly targeting how to make it easier for data scientists to work, to solve, to coordinate with the rest of the business, to take away a lot of the overhead to go put models into production. But maybe I'll hand it back to you, Nenshad, maybe to give a better intro than I on some of the core stuff here.
I think that was an excellent intro. So, when we think about DataRobot Core, and Michael, I'm gonna ask you some questions here as well. We have, historically in our industry, we've been very focused on automation, right? And DataRobot has been a pioneer in bringing automation to a huge diversity of different modeling types, different data types, and so on. And what's really interesting about Core is that we recognize that it's really important. And Michael, I think you see this in your own work that you do every day as our CTO, and the importance of the flexibility of being able to plug into code, being able to add code and certain code specific tasks inside the system. So with Core, I think there are three areas that I'm really excited about. And I'd love to hear from you, Michael, about how these might affect the way that you do your work as our CTO. The first is, of course, we now have first class notebook capability. And I think every data scientist in the world has their favorite notebook, their favorite set of macros, their favorite code snippets. But bringing this in a managed, easy to use way that's part of a bigger platform, I think is a key value proposition of DataRobot Core. The second thing that I think is extremely exciting is what we've done with composable ML. So this is the idea that DataRobot can automatically generate features and feature pre-processing steps along with the actual algorithms that we use to then train the model. But what's so exciting is that now people can rearrange those blueprints live. They can actually run their own experiments. They can add their own code in R and Python, or even build their own blueprint from scratch using their own code. And I think that's going to be a big game changer for a lot of the folks that have not traditionally tried these types of systems like DataRobot offers. And the third product area I'm really excited about is code-centric pipelines. The ability to write SQL in different individual blocks, sequence them together, and being able to handle very large volumes of data transformation tasks inside of the Spark SQL environment, which is highly scalable and well known as a robust framework for data processing. So as part of DataRobot Core, and Michael, you've been at DataRobot for a few years now. Can you talk a little bit about the evolution, because you've been part of building a lot of the automation, but now as you see composability and code-centric pipelines, what does that mean for someone like you who actually many times prefers being able to dive into code?
Yeah, I think as a data scientist, there's a lot of work that you end up doing in a notebook. A lot of times it's to automate and just try lots of things. Part of what DataRobot does is try to make it easy to really iterate, experiment, and test out a lot of approaches. There's a lot of modeling strategies built into DataRobot. That's really where DataRobot started, was by building AutoML capabilities to really rapidly iterate on problems. So we can try out hundreds or thousands of different strategies on any particular problem and figure out really quickly what works and what doesn't work. Usually there's data scientists, they want to try, myself included, for really hard problems that are kind of mission critical. There's a lot of things you want to explore, including all the different technologies, all the different methodologies and modeling strategies. And that happens in all different types of tools. And a big part of what we're talking about today is the work that we've sort of done to try to make that way easier to collaborate with the tools that are available, with other people, other personas that you need to collaborate and coordinate these data science efforts with. Make it easier to share your work, share your models, make it easier to maintain them in production, all types of things like that. So going back to what you're talking about, so we start off as an AutoML company. We've grown up to this really complete end-to-end collaboration platform that builds on a lot of the sort of the data science credibility, but also with the ability to share and maintain your work in production.
That's fantastic. And I think one of the other areas, Michael, you did some really groundbreaking work last year in helping to predict the pandemic and how it was going to proceed as it rampaged through our country, and unfortunately still does. Can you talk a little bit about sort of the data pipelining process? I know that a lot of the feedback that you and the team had as you were bringing in data from all these different sources, like data from different government systems, census data, etc. How important is it to have that reproducibility in the pipeline form, and what does it mean for data scientists like you to be able to have that power within the DataRobot platform?
Yeah, so what Nenshad was talking about is, if you didn't know, DataRobot got really deeply involved in the vaccine trials last year. So we worked really closely with the NIH and the teams there that were coordinating with the vaccine trial manufacturers. So we had an army of people internally rallied to just try to go help improve this, accelerate the speed and success of those programs that they're running. I think it was the hardest data science challenge I've ever been a part of, probably the most humbling as well. I've actually had a ton of experience in like time series use cases and forecasting and things like that, but this is like that to a whole nother level. And problems like that, they have enormous challenges kind of end to end. There's data quality issues. There's data data collection and data integration issues, the feature engineering that has to be done to kind of combine that data in a useful way. There's the scale of it. So having to make predictions across thousands of counties, and how do you project those down onto tens of thousands of zip codes or individual hospital locations, things like this. And then how do you actually feel confident in the predictions that you're making? So a problem like that, and I know a lot of people in data science are struggling with hard problems that are similar. They can have life or death consequences based on, are you given the right results? Do you believe in the results? Are you actually comfortable to go act on them as well? Because there's huge benefits, huge gains to be made if you can feel good about the results and put them all and start using it all the way into production. So to speak to a little bit what we went to that, so we had everything from kind of automated checking, right? So we look for data quality issues. We use basic DataRobot anomaly detection to figure out when a county or a hospital kind of misreported their numbers, right? You would see everything from negative deaths to backlogs of cases being reported all in like one day. Some like jurisdictions would just change the way that they report COVID cases or just reclassify how they're tracking this information. So pipelines that we could build in DataRobot could basically check for these things, flag them, automatically kind of correct for them, either in the blueprint or in sort of a trust check. And then we also kind of have people go back and review these things as well. So we have dashboards and visualizations, applications that we built to basically review all the materials and recommendations that are going on. Lots of like really dynamic behaviors and that type of problem as well. Like the models that were really good in the start of the pandemic end up being completely different than the best models in the mid and later on in the pandemic as well. So the ability to not just constantly retrain, so we would retrain models every day. It's a thing we call continuous AI. You can put them all into production. It'll monitor the data sources you have and automatically kind of retrain them for you. But it also has a capability to recommend a challenger model when there's some sort of regime change. And this happened all the time in COVID. So we found that it wasn't enough just to retrain daily. We had to basically reassess the modeling strategy on a weekly basis. And there's something like a 25% lift by doing that sort of weekly retraining. I think, I'm trying to think of other exciting things that came out of that project, but it was actually an enormous, incredible experience kind of going end to end and using all of the stuff we've been building over the past couple of years in the robot.
That's a great point about the end-to-end nature, but also the fact that I think in that project, that was really the genesis of us recognizing how important it was to be able to mix and match code centricity with the automation that we provided, right? I think a lot of the pipelines you and the team wrote were just purely in code, but now having these management frameworks, being able to inject that code directly into DataRobot, being able to inject that code into data transformation pipelines, I think wound up being really useful. We'd love to hear from folks in the audience. Please feel free to ask questions. We're talking today about DataRobot's launch of our new capability called Core. It's our new offering for code-centric data scientists to really become part of the AI cloud platform. Let's turn our attention to some of the other areas, Michael, that we're really excited about when it comes to the 7.3 release. So one of the areas that we've had some really interesting innovation has been around being able to deal with multiple different data types. And I think you have really driven this at the company with our ability to bring in time series and geospatial and image processing, all in sort of the same blueprint, as we call it. In this release, there's some really exciting new tools, multimodal clustering, so the ability to actually take these images and text and categorical information and have the system actually generate clusters, which I'm very, very excited about to get insights. We also have this notion of multi-label classification, and I think that really comes from having a very good applicability to images, and when you're processing images and want to be able to know what are all the objects that are in that image. But one of the other ones that I think is very relevant to your pioneering work in time series, Michael, is what we've done with segmented modeling, and the fact that we're bringing the ability to build what would commonly be called modeling factories, that data scientists like you have historically written in code, and we've now provided the ability to do this baked into the platform. Can you talk a little bit about why segmented modeling is actually valuable to customers, and why people who are listening to this stream should be excited about what it offers them?
Yeah, the automated segmentation in the modeling strategy is really powerful. It has an enormous impact on the quality and the reliability of the models and the accuracy overall. So an example of this would be, if something you're forecasting, for example, might be different products, different product segments, or even different products within different product segments might actually behave very differently, right? Their inventory, their seasonality, their just overall sort of variation and drift over time might be completely different. And it justifies having a very different strategy for high velocity items versus low velocity items. But it's not always clear exactly what the right segmentation is. You really need to kind of look at the data and see which of these are truly similar, rather than just sort of categorize together. So what we've done in segmented modeling is you can kind of blend both approaches. So if you have some pre-existing segmentation you're already aware of, we can automatically use that and actually split up all the modeling to kind of model independently across the different segments. You can also automatically detect them, right? So if you want to automatically identify the segments, the groups of customers, or the types of users that you're getting and the types of products you're predicting, automatically figure out which ones are really closely related, and which would benefit from having dedicated models for those particular groups, you can do that as well. And then you can basically learn across all these different projects, but have really optimized strategies for each individual one, depending on their kind of individual characteristics. There's more to come that's also being worked on for the segmentation. There's incredible insights you can do. There's things you can do around really high scale, high volume computing. And these are things that are, I think, coming out soon as well.
That's fantastic. And you mentioned when you were talking about the use cases that we were tackling last year, that you were a key part of driving for us. What I saw was a lot of work, and you mentioned this, around the whole notion of retraining. And when I talk to customers regularly, as both Michael, you and I do on a very normal basis, what we see is that customers are saying that, look, our models are getting stale faster than we have humans able to go and replace them in production. So a lot of the work that you mentioned and sort of seeing how quickly models would decay in their quality and being able to retrain them very, very quickly is important. Can you talk a little bit, in 7.3, we've actually added, the ability to retrain these models very consistently in a framework that we call continuous AI, as you mentioned. Can you talk about the interplay between, writing your own model, having the need to retrain it, and where automation can actually help someone to accelerate their ability to keep those fresh models in production?
Yeah, a really important sort of like usage flow is sometimes you can build models inside DataRobot, but you can also build a lot of work that's done outside, right? So you might already have an existing model. It's still critical to be able to maintain these models that you have. Part of the function I think you're referring to, Nenshad, correct me if I'm wrong, is actually we can host these external models, right? And bring in the automated retraining, bring in the monitoring of sort of drift. Any model that you develop, you're implicitly kind of assuming that the data you train that model on is going to be very similar to kind of the future data. And it's something that in any real practical AI use case or problem, it's always never as clean as you want it to be. And the impact you might expect to get when you do your sort of assessment, you get all the business units kind of aligned to go put this into production, might taper off or reverse if you don't maintain the result and return the model. So it's critical to think through all the way to the end how you not only going to make this model you've created like awesome, give you the results and the impact, but sustain it over time as well, and reliably have it be as high quality as when you first developed it years into the future, right? If you're really like outstanding data scientist, you're going to have hundreds of these different use cases. You're going to accumulate hundreds of different models that are powering like critical business applications. And it's not something you want to be worried about longer term. Like you want to make sure that these things are performing well, behaving well. If something does go wrong, like, hey, COVID hits, you can get automatic alerts to see, hey, are there bigger things, bigger changes you might want to make? But for the most part, you want them to be kind of maintained and automatically kind of checked, monitored, retrained for you. So also, maybe one other thing just to speak to that is you also want to maintain some level of control, right? For really critical problems, you want the ability to kind of review those sort of changes. So that type of governance, the checks and things like that is also part of the system where you can have it be automatically retraining, but also you can maintain some control and be in the loop there. Sometimes you want to go with the retrained model. Sometimes you want to wait a little bit longer. So we thought through a lot of these sort of practical details from working with hundreds and thousands of customers now. So I don't know if was there anything else that you were trying to get at with your question?
No, I think you covered it all. And the key point there, which really blends together some of what we're talking about with Core and 7.3 is that we've completely opened up the platform. If you want to bring in your own code to DataRobot and run your own models, you can. You can do it with our composable ML framework. If you want to take some of the code that DataRobot generates and mix it with some of your own code, R or Python, you can do that too. And then when it comes to ML ops and this importance of actually being able to run models either where they are and instrument them and manage them, or be able to actually run them on our high performance infrastructure, the ability to do that in a way where it doesn't matter where the model was generated. Our system, and we've been driving this transformation in the company, is open. Bring your models. Bring models that require GPU. Bring models that require different various data types that you code yourself. We want to be that platform that allows you to bring your own models and the automated models on the same area. So let's talk about one other area, Michael, because you mentioned this notion of end-to-end. And the end result is not just typically a prediction, right? Those predictions actually have to be put into the hands either of people or being able to put into systems. right? So talk a little bit about, in this release, we've tied together our no-code app builder with our time series capability. And we've also enhanced our decision flow capability so that you can actually model decisions based on multiple models and if then else rules and procedural logic to be able to derive a decision. Can you talk a little bit, as you're talking to customers and as you're seeing the industry evolve, talk a little bit about no code apps and decisions and the importance of that last mile that DataRobot now offers inside the platform?
Yeah, a lot of times to ultimately make sort of impact with the models that you're developing, the experience you're running, you need to kind of get them live so that you can actually interact with live. So what Nenshad is referring to is the framework we have for really quickly, really rapidly taking a model or a project or pipeline you've developed and creating an application for around that automatically. So you can really quickly drag in the ability to kind of make predictions natively in this app and have it hosted and maintained online. But you can also customize it significantly. So sort of bring in the prediction explanations you care about, the right context for the data that you're analyzing that kind of power the model and power the sort of the predictions that are being made. So you can really easily share that externally with others, either your colleagues, other collaborators, or even potentially end users. A big part of that also is the models can make predictions, but a lot of times the applications you need to power or the decision processes or intelligence processes you want to ultimately impact might need some configuration on top of them. So the other really unique thing here, sort of synergy, is this decision AI sort of platform we have for basically being able to design the rules on top of a prediction. So any practical business application, there's usually some custom business logic of how you're actually going to act on or modify or constrain the predictions that are coming out. So now it's a really quick method natively in the application, basically go configure these sorts of rules, logic, combining multiple predictions. If there is a prediction that looks to be an outlier, you can flag that and actually treat it differently than one you have high confidence in. Like, these are really practical things that we've done kind of over and over manually over the years, and now we sort of built it into the platform because it's such an important part of the process to powering like a real practical application. So these things are now sort of built in and super easy to configure and use, and then update and monitor and kind of maintain long term as well.
It's fantastic. I think, in looking at what we've been very fortunate today with our launch to have coverage from VentureBeat and SiliconANGLE and TechTarget, and they've all kind of highlighted different aspects of the platform and how we've been putting it together. I think when I speak to customers regularly and they think of DataRobot, they think, okay, AutoML for data scientists using a GUI. Right. That's what, and that was the DataRobot of, about 2.5, 3 years ago. But what you've described, Michael, is that, in every step of the life cycle, we have gone from, just an automated approach. We've actually brought out, data management capabilities, whether it's our AI catalog, our automated feature engineering, or our data preparation capabilities. So that ability to go back and forth between the automation and code on the data side. On the ML side, we've talked about the fact that now with composable ML, we have the ability to actually mix and match the Lego blocks that DataRobot provides. And we have hundreds of tasks that have been tested and verified and used on a regular basis by our customers. And now you can mix and match them yourself. So again, full flexibility to bring in your own Python and R code. On the ML ops side, being able to bring in your own models, monitor those models, manage those models, understand drift, accuracy. It doesn't matter where they originated from, having that ability to go from pure code, et cetera, all the way out to then building the applications and decisions. So when you look at that entire life cycle and the fact that now with DataRobot Core, we really have a focused offering for code-first data scientists. Can you talk a little bit about usage of the API? So it's one of the unsung heroes, I think, of DataRobot. And for people like you, Michael, who are very comfortable in code, does the API really allow you to do everything that you can do in DataRobot and the GUI? Do you have full programmatic access to the platform? Or what's been your experience as a coder being able to take your own code, but also matching it with DataRobot functionality and calling that via code? Can you talk about the usage of the API a bit?
Yeah, so a lot of times people talk about user experience, right, as having really fancy UIs and powerful applications and things like that. I think the API's experience is as important or sometimes more important than the user experience. So we think about APIs as like an API user experience as well. And so we treat super seriously, like every single thing that we produce required to be fully supported throughout our APIs, maintained backwards compatible. We have basically a first tier kind of API for supporting applications long term as well. And through you can use the automation sort of build models, but a lot of times if you might need to bring that out into custom applications, or you need to integrate it with other systems. It's another area we take really seriously is integration, and the API is sort of the way that we go about doing that. So everything new feature we created has an API story and is maintained kind of long term as well. Yeah, and so if you're sort of the code first data scientist, that is where you want to live, and that's the thing you want to see no compromises on, right? Have it be as outstanding as possible, because it opens the door for more uses and applications of the AI systems you want to create, basically.
That's fantastic. So I think, as we're getting to the end of our time here, I wanted to take a moment to summarize a couple of things, and that Michael has said, that I've shared, and that we've been able to communicate through the various media outlets for this launch. I think the first is DataRobot is taking code first data science very, very seriously. We have invested many engineers over many months, even years, to truly build a world-class offering that allows code-first data science to write in languages that they're comfortable in a managed notebook environment that provides for collaboration and governance, to be able to edit the work that the automation can provide in AutoML, but also to bring in their own models and still take advantage of our insights, of the ability of the system to deploy with one click, of prediction explanations, and so on. We have had the ability, I think, as we bring these together, to understand that the ability for the system to write pipelines, to actually be able to build training and inference pipelines, where you're pulling data potentially from dozens of different data sources, writing that either in code or using sort of the visual tasks that the pipeline system provides, and ultimately make those reproducible so that you have a versioned, transparent way of delivering those pipelines in an automated way. These capabilities and the combination of the API, which Michael just talked about, really make for a very, very elegant experience. And the power here is that that same experience is completely connected to what the other people in the organization are doing. So if you have citizen data scientists or data analysts who want to be able to use this technology, they are able to do so on the same platform as the coders. And the coders and the analysts can actually interact with the analysts, let's say, taking a first pass, being able to do some predictions, and then handing it over to the code-centric data scientists saying, how can we improve this? Can you help me validate this model and make sure it's correct? And you're bringing that all on the same backbone, which is, of course, what we call AI Cloud. And Core, of course, then is linked to all the other innovation in 7.3. So in addition to the pipelines, in addition to the machine learning capabilities with composable ML, in addition to the notebooks, you also have this very rich set of multimodal capabilities, the ability to do clustering on multimodal data sets, the ability to actually do multi-label classification. And so the expansion of what began as AutoML for data scientists has really become a very rich platform that combines code first and click first experiences on the same platform, in an area where all of those individuals can collaborate and very quickly get to business value. So with that, Michael and I are going to sign off. From all of us at DataRobot, we're all, of course, very excited about DataRobot Core as well as 7.3, but we also want to wish you and your families a fantastic holiday season and look forward to engaging with all of you in the new year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.